Remember, those eyelids have thickness, and at this particular angle, the light is catching those eyelids, and that gives us a whole lot of form. I want you to look, I've kept us on the face here because I want to continuously make the point that features don't have to be as hard as we often make them. Have you ever spent an hour rendering the eye and working it and pushing and pulling and erasing out and putting back in, and it never quite feels right, and never quite, you try and get all the little details just right, and you fight it and fight it and fight it. You'll notice I haven't done any of that here. I blocked in the simple shadow. I drew lines that described the simplicity of the eye, and then I put in what was in shadow, and then I gradated, I pulled that shadow, gradated into the light, and then they were basically done. Because what makes those features work are not the complexities of the anatomy. What makes those features work are the simple masses of light and shadow and the edges that fall between the two. That's a lesson I very much hope that you'll learn in this lesson and in this demonstration. And it falls back to that Morgan Weisling painting that we looked at earlier, where I hope you were shocked by how little information it took to convey a reasonable clarity to those features. I hope you think about that. I hope when you go to bed tonight, that thought floats in your mind. I hope you dream about that all night, and I hope it permanently gets glued in your mind. Because fighting the features is something that tends to be that natural thing that we want to do until we learn otherwise. But then when we learn otherwise and give it the right amount of practice, suddenly it becomes a breeze for us. And that is so much what I want for you, and so much what you want. You want this process to no longer be a source of frustration. You want this drawing process to be a source of great pleasure for you. And this is the thing that will give you that. So I'm continuing to push and pull, just looking at some of the subjects. I've got my kneaded eraser working, I've got my blending stump, just cleaning up and mostly simplifying. Notice I'm using that blending stump primarily to simplify. And with that pit charcoal pencil, I'm coming back in and hitting the very darkest darks. You do want to be cautious. Now this is a model in a lighting situation that does have a lot of contrast. The video camera is actually picking up a little more contrast than is actually present. And so you saw the final drawing at the beginning, so you can see where we're going with this demonstration. I'll also show you the final drawing, a nice scan of it, a proper scan at the end. I'll go back to that and let you see what the proper value statement is here. But there is a lot of contrast in this lighting setting. I'm being cautious though to make sure my darkest darks are used delicately. And you'll notice what I'm doing there as I'm putting some of those strokes in. That's a great opportunity for wraparound. We're primarily thinking and talking about edges here, but it's a combination of all the principles that we've discussed in class coming together. And in getting depth, one of your powerful tools, of course, is the use of edges. But don't forget our first lesson about getting depth in our image, and that was creating overlaps. But I can continue to make the point about those wraparound forms on the edges of the head and the hair. Overlaps combined with soft edges gives you a powerful sense of depth to get those forms to wrap around behind in space. So I'm continuing to nuance those features. Yes, firming them up, also continuously simplifying them, making sure that I don't get too busy, making sure I don't get too caught up in the little pieces and parts. Now I've grabbed a piece of white chalk, and you've seen me pull this stunt before, and I keep promising that we're going to talk about white chalk. We just have to do all things in their proper time. But I am putting the white chalk in the very brightest highlights. Don't get carried away. This paper, it dawns on me that I didn't specifically let you know up front what this paper was. So it's okay, I can do it now, and then you can go off and do your homework. You're absolutely welcome to try this paper, though not obligated. This is Reeves Lightweight Cream Colored Paper, the same one on your materials list. That's what I'm drawing on here. Now you're welcome to just work on newsprint if you're comfortable with newsprint. You're welcome to try this paper, which I like to use because it's an archival paper, but it does have a similarity to rough newsprint, which is a nice feeling surface to work on. There's not much tone to this paper, but there is enough tone with its cream color that white chalk will stand out just 1/2 value step above the paper, and so it helps give me a hint of highlight. Don't get carried away with it. For a light paper like this, I strictly use it only in the very, very lightest highlights, little tiny pieces. If I start filling in with the chalk, it just starts to not feel right, gets a little bit cold and out of control. Okay, but we've just about got it there. Just a couple of strokes, soft edges, pushing and pulling. I'm just taking a look at it there, grabbing a couple of things, and there it is. So here's our proper scan. I can zoom back out so you can see it a little bit more in context. But this is our proper scan. I'll zoom all the way out for you here so you can see that not only is it a character study and a study of her features, but it's also a composition, as we discussed earlier. And I want to do one final zoom in for you because this demonstration has been primarily features and the simple distance of the form wrapping around the edges. I hope this has been helpful for you. It's been a real pleasure for me to go through this demo with you. Good luck on your next drawing.